Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today. You may be less pleased you invited me after you hear what I have to say. The alliance that's been announced today is one of the most ambitious movements I've ever seen. In analysing the scale of the task in front of us, I want to give you some sense of my qualifications and experience in this complex sector of societal change linked to consumer behaviour. I started my public relations agency in 1985 at the age of 21. It was neither a deliberate nor probably enlightened choice of job, but it was driven by an adherence to an informal rule in my family that you had to find an industry not already claimed by another relative. And in my case, that ruled out psychoanalysis, art, politics, acting, television, journalism, and the sale of quality door furniture. And I went for PR before I was later informed that my great uncle Edward Bernays had invented it in America at the turn of the century. But in breaking with the family tradition, I've been able to really happily pursue a career for the last 30 years and have had the chance to work on some of the most ambitious, hopeless causes and noble endeavours imaginable. Freuds has played a role in just about every social major change movement since Live Aid in '85, which was our first. We've worked with NGOs and governments, individuals, companies, usually all at the same time, to try and use the powers of persuasive communications to further goals and ideals that would change and improve our world. Make Poverty History didn't succeed, but it certainly dramatically changed the way that governments and NGOs approach development. Live Aid didn't save our planet from climate change, but it did raise public consciousness of a critical issue and has ensured that decisions made that impact our environment are subject to much more scrutiny than they would be without public awareness. The Blue Foundation for Marine Conservation hasn't saved the oceans, but they do now control 5% of the world's water mass. Comic Relief and Red Nose Day haven't ended social injustice in the UK and Africa, but we have raised £1 billion and created a whole generation in Britain that knows and cares about its issues. And the Sustainable Development Goals are 15 years away from not being achieved, but by launching them dynamically to a global audience, I think we've given them a better chance of success. And I think the task that you've set yourself with the Food and Land Use Coalition initiative is more challenging than any of those campaigns. I'm kind of glad you didn't go for the obvious acronym of FLUCK, which was what I said when I began to understand what it was you were trying to do. My understanding of the obstacles facing you is based on the fact that I'm one of them. Freuds is the largest communication agency in the world, specializing in the promotion of the food industry. We've represented or worked really closely with Pepsi, with Mars, Diageo, Walmart, Danone, Warburton's, Unilever, McCain's, Thai Food, Kerry, KFC, the Food Network, hundreds of companies trying to sell the public more fizzy drinks, more crisps, fried chicken, alcohol, bread, chips, pork, chewing gum, chocolate. We're part of a worldwide trillion-dollar industry primarily interested in serving their shareholders by selling more food and drinks in larger portions for more profits. So what the fluck am I doing here? I like that. Well, we also represent the British government. For the last 10 years, we've managed the Change for Life initiative that has been demonstrably successful in reducing childhood obesity in the UK. We represent Jamie Oliver and his just magnificent food revolution that's given him such a powerful and trusted voice in this vital fight to educate populations. We've worked with Pepsi, who've reformulated virtually every product in their portfolio to reduce salt and sugar and launched new products and variations that are healthier options. We've worked with Mars to move towards 100% sustainable certification of their cocoa, outperforming the rest of the industry by 10 times. We've helped persuade dozens of companies around the world to join Bono's RED initiative, which has now raised nearly $500 million for the Global Fund and ensured that world governments continue their multi-billion-dollar support for the fight against pandemics. And of course, what Paul Pullman is doing at Unilever is changing the game entirely. Every client who engages with us implicitly wants to have a better reputation. And we say that's easy. Be better. Be more conscious. Have better values and demonstrate them by the way that you behave. It's not always a great strategy for winning business, but it does mean that the clients we do work with have a genuine commitment to improving those actions that could have a negative impact on their customers and on the environment. And this, to me, is enlightened self-interest. Reputation has become a more valuable commodity than enriched uranium, and losing it about as devastating as nuclear fallout. The more the public understand about the world around them, the more they're holding companies to account for their behavior, rewarding the ones that they believe in and brutally punishing the ones that are coming up short. But this revolution can't be won by drawing a battle line against the opposing forces. They're more powerful than us, they're better funded, and they have history and consumer inertia on their side. Trillions of marketing dollars have been spent telling people to eat bad food. Hundreds of billions of dollars are spent annually reinforcing the brands and the product choices that consumers are continuing to make, which is leading us to the brink of a global disaster. And we simply can't compete, certainly not just by being right or by having science on our side. And the task ahead of us is daunting because of the mighty power of big food to outspend, to outmaneuver, and to question the science and veracity of our beliefs, as the carbon industry have miraculously managed to leave a lingering doubt in the mind of the consumer about the unquestionable reality of climate change. So we have to develop strategic messages that appeal to the broadest sections of society and industry without diluting our overall aims. We have to take the view that small gains are worthwhile. I mean, the difference between a pragmatic activist and a dogmatic idealist is that one has a chance of changing something other than a few people's minds. And we need the biggest possible tent to accommodate an army of the casually interested. We have to welcome anyone in who can help amplify or spread the message that food matters. They may not all understand or care how much it matters, but if they can help us further our goals in any way, we're not rich enough or powerful enough to afford to reject support. We have to work with disruptors in science and technology. Like, we may not be shareholders in the fake beef from Impossible Foods, but their success in reducing the world's dependence on intense cattle farming will be our success too. I personally loathe the idea of Solent's clinically formulated food shakes that remove any pleasure or passion from the consumption of food, but they're raising interesting questions, and they're part of this debate. The entirely robot-staffed Eatsa restaurant chain, which is the hottest startup in New York at the moment, is a disaster for employment, but its quinoa balls-based menu is really enlightened. And all of these companies are at the forefront of public debate and consumer engagement that furthers our goals. We have to work with food companies, big and small. The big ones to help them help us by finding common objectives, with a recognition that they're commercial organizations who can only act within a fiduciary framework. We have to help demonstrate that by responding to consumer and regulatory demand, they can meet their own objectives of sales growth and competitive sector advantage. And we have to work with the small ones to help them disrupt the big ones, and so lead consumer demand for better products and change the game. The Kind chocolate bar are taking America by storm, and big chocolate is being forced to follow suit. I mean, I can't tell you how many ethical chocolate bars there are in the world that have failed to achieve any sales momentum at all. Why? Because the world doesn't want an ethical chocolate. It wants great tasting chocolate. I mean, Elon Musk has shown the world motoring industry that no one really wanted an electric car, but they all wanted a Tesla because it was cool. And as it happened, it was electric and it was helpful to the environment. There's innovation in every corner of the food industry, and we can help them to become part of a much larger movement with support and advocacy, marketing and aggregation. If we could persuade Walmart, Sainsbury's, Ocado to create an ethic aisle where every product has some redemptive quality, then these little artisan food companies can begin to compete in the fight for shelf space that currently consigns most of them to a few branches of whole food. If we can create and curate a world of content about the food revolution, co-opting celebrities and advocates from all corners to align themselves around these issues, and then consistently feed the world's old, new, and social media with engaging stories and narratives that both educate and inspire people to be more conscious in their choices, we can maintain the drumbeat of change and assist our allies in combating the big guns that are so vested in the status quo. We kind of need to become the Bloomberg of food information, generously providing the world's media with high-quality information, stories, images that further our cause. Was this fake news? Alternative facts? Propaganda? My uncle Bernays said, the only difference between propaganda and education really is in the point of view. The advocacy of what we believe in is education. The advocacy of what we don't believe in is propaganda. And I passionately believe that this is education that the world really fucking needs. Thank you for listening. There's a lot more to say and a lot more to hear, but I like our global food ecosystem. I'm out of time. Thank you.